Fat Like Me by Dan Cook. If anyone knows what it's like to be different, it's me. You see, up until recently, I was fat. Not just a few pounds overweight either. I was enormous, gigantic, huge. I used to weigh right around 500 pounds, my all-time high being 617. I tried every diet in the book, but the results were always the same. I'd drop a quick 50 pounds just to gain back 75. A doctor suggested weight loss surgery, but I knew it wasn't for me. I loved food too much, and frankly, I didn't want to do anything that would keep me from eating it. See, the thing is, I wasn't trying to lose weight for myself, but rather for society. I'd been fat my entire life and was perfectly happy with the way I looked. Society, on the other hand, found me repulsive. Mothers guarded their small children, schoolgirls gasped in horror, and I overheard a barrage of snide comments mumbled behind my back whenever I went out in public. In short, I was a freak. In my heart, I knew I was a good person with a lot to offer, but I never got the chance to prove it. Despite my best efforts, people judged me without ever taking the time to get to know me. I'd just about given up hope and accepted the fact that I'd never fit in when I stumbled upon a secret that would alter not only my own pitiful life, but the lives of nearly everyone on the planet. I made this monumental discovery while working as a janitor at a major pharmaceutical company. One night while making my rounds, I noticed a cage filled with enormously fat rats. Their tiny legs lay almost completely hidden behind a thick layer of blubbery flesh, making them resemble furry footballs. I found the rotund rodents strangely fascinating and spent every free moment staring at them through the bars of their cage. At first glance they appeared listless, but I later observed they had voracious appetites, quickly devouring any food placed within reach. While snooping through some files, I learned the reason for the rats' excessive weight gain. For more than a decade, the company had been unsuccessfully trying to develop a miracle weight loss pill. Those rats had been part of an experiment with the latest version of the drug, codenamed XJ37. According to the files, this most recent version did exactly the opposite of what it was intended to do. The comments section of the report read, "It's unfortunate there is no market for a drug that can block the body's ability to burn fat while dramatically increasing one's appetite." At that point, a devious plan was born within my socially deprived mind. I quickly photocopied the recipe for XJ37 and headed to the storeroom where I stole enough chemicals to make several gallons of the drug. It seemed almost too easy. With XJ37 and the internet, I knew I could make the world a better place for fat people like myself. The next day I mixed up a bathtub full of the wonder drug and began searching the internet for a soft drink executive and an obese satellite communications technician with a background in advertising. It wasn't long before I'd found both. They agreed to meet with me to discuss a fictitious business opportunity, but in reality were becoming my unwitting accomplices. Thinking XJ37 was a revolutionary new flavor enhancer, the soft drink executive jumped at the chance to add it to his line of products. The technician and I set to work designing a subliminal ad campaign with one simple message: fat is sexy. We then piggybacked the message onto satellite television broadcasts and embedded it in a viral internet ad campaign. I think the chubby technician might have gone along with my scheme even if I'd told him XJ37's real purpose, but there was too much at stake to take any unnecessary chances. As far as he knew, we were just creating ads to make society more accepting of fat people. Finally, with the wheels of my ingenious plan set firmly into motion, there was nothing left to do but wait. A devilish grin crossed my lips as I contemplated what was to come. A world where all the beautiful people were fat like me. No one ballooned to my size overnight, so I wasn't sure if it had worked at first, but gradually, day by day, the people around me seemed to be getting heavier. As the weeks passed, the changes became more obvious. Fat people proudly wore slinky outfits, spandex, and even the previously despised thong bikini in public, and no one objected. Tabloids reported rumors of celebrities receiving silicone belly and buttock implants, and the stock values of junk food companies skyrocketed. The world was getting fat and loving it. I found the physical changes to be mildly satisfying in a vengeful sort of way. The sociological changes, on the other hand, were more than I could ever have hoped for. Everywhere I went, people were smiling, saying hello, and even starting up conversations with me. It was as if being in my presence made them feel good inside. For the first time in my life, I was a hot item with the ladies. Every fat woman in town wanted a date with me. It was a dream come true. A year after initiating my plan, everyone who was anyone was fat. Health clubs went out of business and were replaced by bakeries and ice cream shops. Airlines and movie theaters were forced to replace their narrow seats with much larger ones, and slim-cut clothing was done away with altogether. On the surface, it seemed like paradise, but I was beginning to sense that all was not right in the world. It started off innocently enough, my walking to the donut shop, or taking the stairs rather than the elevator, but gradually it developed into an uncontrollable urge to exercise. Eventually, every spare moment I had was spent doing sit-ups, push-ups, jumping jacks, or jogging in place. I didn't understand why at the time. I just knew I had to keep moving. I became desperate when it got to the point that I was skipping meals in order to work out, so I checked myself into the hospital. After a thorough examination, the doctor solemnly informed me that I had developed a rare hyperthyroid condition. He said it wasn't fatal, but for the rest of my life, I would have the metabolism rate of a hummingbird. Then he fought back a smile and said not to worry unless I developed an urge to fly around sucking nectar. I just bench-pressed his desk a half-dozen times and headed home. For the next few months, I exercised incessantly, pausing only when absolutely necessary for a few hours of sleep or a light meal. Needless to say, I lost weight. A lot of weight. I cried every morning as I stepped on the scale and watched my weight plunge below the 400-pound mark to 300, then 200, finally leveling off at 175 pounds. Clad only in underwear, I stood before the mirror and recoiled in disgust at the sight of my bulging biceps and washboard stomach. I looked like the Soloflex man on steroids. I was hideous. As I walked the streets, chubby mothers guarded their plump children. Hefty schoolgirls gasped in horror, and I overheard a barrage of snide comments mumbled behind my back. Once again, I was a freak, and I knew what had to be done. I immediately discontinued the distribution of XJ37 and began a new subliminal ad campaign stating that fit is sexy. Now all I can do is sit back and wait. But I'm not worried about a thing. It's only a matter of time before the world gets itself back into shape. Then I'll fit in for sure.